what is the Galactic Federation and how would you describe this to someone who's never heard of it?
So from my perspective, the Galactic Federation is a collection or a collective of intergalactic beings who have agreed to come together in peace and joy and to resolve conflicts without violence. Kind of similar. The closest thing that we have maybe would be NATO, where countries have agreed to work together without war. So the Galactic Federation, because their message is peace and joy, they've helped stop major wars. They are continuing to encourage other beings to join them in peace and nonviolence, but you have to be willing to do the peace and the nonviolence thing. And they also act as kind of Earth's protectors.
Yeah.
And as we shift into the higher dimension, our planet is susceptible and vulnerable to outside influences. So there's this sort of fleet of galactic ships protecting us. Yeah, I guess that's how I look at them. Is that how you look at them?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the same way I would describe it. Yeah. Do you have any clue, like, how many planets are involved or, like, the size of it?
It's bigger than we can imagine. I know that.
Yeah,
There's there's so many other interstellar beings, and we only know about just a tiny portion of them, right? I can't, it's really hard to imagine. One of my interstellar aspects, so we have all these different soul aspects, our cool soul is huge, right?
Yes.
And one of them is the Galactic Federation. She works on the ship. She's one of the people that works in the command center. So when I connect with her, and I've been in meetings, sometimes there's 20, sometimes there's 200 beings. I don't know, hundreds. There's hundreds of different beings that are members, but there's also many that aren't still. There's some that are, I don't know the right words, like in transition, wanting to be members, but not sure if they can follow all the rules. So then they kind of get brought in just on a temporary basis to see if they can make it work, kind of thing. So it's always shifting, and new members like coming in, and new members exploring it. But it's so huge that we as humans can't really wrap our mind around it. There's so many different dimensions that some of these beings live in that we don't have an awareness of,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that too. It's hard for me to even comprehend how big it is and how many souls and planets and different dimensional levels are all involved.
Yeah. It's a little bit beyond our comprehension.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you find out about Galactic Federation and your connection to it?
I started just having like coffee meetups with some of my other metaphysical friends, if you will. Different things started coming up, and we started recognizing that we had similar experiences and similar. We all knew the names, like we were all given the same name, and then our experiences were all so similar that we couldn't discount them. As individuals, we were all having very similar experiences. So then there was a group of us that started meeting regularly and talking about our experiences and getting more involved in the Galactic Federation and how we could help and what our role was supposed to be.
Yeah. So how are you involved now, and what would you say your role is? Have you got a better understanding of that now?
Yes. So most of us humans, our human incarnation that's here working with the Galactic Federation, from my understanding, we're here to sort of be, like you said, an ambassador, normalize it, and help people understand that it's not scary, and that they're not an adversary. And also, when we do get to a higher dimension, and some of these things do materialize in the sense that we can now see them, visually see them, make it so it's not so scary, and like do introductions and be a conduit, so to speak, for them, and be their voice, just to help facilitate communication and relationships with them.
Yeah, that's exactly how I would describe my role right now, at least what I've found up until now. You
Oh,
know,
good.
yeah, so I will channel them a lot and they'll give me messages. I'm starting to open up and share them on YouTube publicly. It's been a lot for me to start to open up. So I feel like I'm sharing my own messages, and like I started doing these interviews and I just keep running into Galactic Federation people. It's just one after the other after the other. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, there's a pattern here. So, bringing them on the channel, hearing their stories, and yeah, just trying to normalize it and help people understand that there is nothing to fear, and that this organization specifically is about peace and love and joy. And they're protecting us.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, preparing for physical, when they do come here physically, um, to help kind of introduce them to people. Like I'm actually working on that right now, preparing to meet them physically. Um, and then I'll be bringing groups in to meet them, just kind of slowly. So I think we're all, all of us boots on the ground have
Right.
different roles to
Yeah.
play with this as they come here. Because the sense I'm getting, I mean, they are coming here now, starting with small groups and people, that
Mm-hmm.
are familiar with them and comfortable with them as they come to the planet, which is so exciting.
It's very exciting. Yeah.
Yeah,
To, yeah. Just to know that we're not stuck here by ourselves is
we're
exciting to
not.
me.
Yeah, it's so exciting. Have they given you any sort of information about, like, for your role, like when they're coming?
Well, in my, I mean, I guess you could call it astral traveling, I've met all of them, so to speak, as much as you can meet them in the non physical.
Yeah.
There's been a little bit of a like hard to pin down date because their time is different than our time. Time doesn't exist as we feel it in 3D.
Yeah.
And there also is, uh, certain events that need to happen or not happen. What we've been told is that it's definitely happening in our lifetime. There have been times where we've felt like it's been imminent, but then something happens politically or some sort of natural disaster on the planet, and then they pull back. Like there has to be a certain level of openness and positivity, and there's always this flow of like negative and positive. And right now, politically, at least in the United States, it's very tumultuous. So they're trying to be very careful about when they do come, and it has to be exactly the right time. So we've been told. So I mean, sometimes we get within the year, and sometimes it's just go within your lifetime. Like, okay. And also, one of the reasons they don't like to give us a date is because then we change our own trajectory. We change our own patterns and our own thoughts. And then if we start getting anxious or excited and we start making different choices, then that changes our choices that we normally would make.
It changes the timeline, right?
It
So,
changes the timeline. So that's a big reason why they don't tell everybody, because then everybody would start changing their patterns and change
yeah,
what they do. If we have to get ready or I have to do this or I'm not going to go out because they might show up today, kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. I find they try to keep us more in the now moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. And so I know you mentioned earlier how, how massive it is. They're always looking for new member planets, and they might bring someone in and see, okay, is it working? Kind of test it out. Where would you say Earth is? Have we even gotten to the point where we could test it out? Like, we have so much violence and weapons and war and craziness on our planet.
Well, to start, I would say that we're not in a high enough dimension to really be able to grasp what it is to be part of the Galactic Federation, at least most of our planet or part of our planet. So they're trying to keep our planet protected and keep us from destroying our planet so we can get to that higher dimension, and then a lot of those lower vibrational energies fall away, and then we can become a like a true member of the Galactic Federation.
Yeah. And
And
would you
our planet has a lot of value
think
to them.
that they would love to have us? A lot of people are just kind of waking up and starting to hear about Galactic Federation. Would you have any advice for people who are wanting to learn more, like where they could go or how they would get more information on the Federation?
I would encourage people to look for a group to talk about it. There's some online. There's a group that I belong to that Awkwardly Zen. We have a monthly interstellar open forum, and then work on your channeling. Be open to new ideas. Be open to seeing things differently, because interstellar beings don't look like us.
Yep.
And what you see in the movies isn't really reality. So the chances of them being scary and aggressive are pretty low. They'll look different, but if you have an open mind and kind of feel in with your heart, they can be very loving and giving. There's some great books out there. There's a lot more stuff coming, and on the internet and in print and using as well, that there's going to be, on the flip side of everything, there's going to be somebody that's going to discount it. There's going to be people that are going to disagree. There's going to be people that say you're crazy, or that's crazy, or that doesn't even make any sense. But if you can wrap your head around the concept of our universe is infinite and so massive, that how could we be the only planet that has life on it? How is that really possible?
Yeah. It's always blown my mind when people are like, well, there's no evidence and we could just be the only ones. Like, are you kidding me? It's infinite. It's infinite.
And we're such in a me vibration, like that our planet just isn't in a high enough vibration for all of us to feel it. We haven't evolved enough as a species, but we're getting really, really close.
Yeah, we are. People are moving more into their hearts.
Yeah, for sure. Staying, one of the things I always suggest is be aware of what you're surrounding yourself with. And if you're surrounding yourself with negativity all the time, whether it's from the media or the news or just your own life outlook, it's not helpful for your growth and your expansion, because that keeps you in such a lower vibration. And the actual vibration of Earth is joy. And so the more we can all get to that joy vibration, it's it's contagious.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that like each planet has a different core vibration or essence. And
Mm-hmm.
so Earth is joy.
It is, yeah. Earth was created to be this beautiful place, like a vacation spot, sort of.
Yes,
All
I
the
heard
different
that.
There's so many different planets and species that brought all of their best things to Earth. That's how Earth was seeded to be this lush, beautiful place, diversity and different animals and waters and plants, flora and fauna. And we really do live in an amazingly beautiful place. We have to take care of it too.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful message. Yeah, I guess one thing I just thought to ask you about Galactic Federation. So since you're clairvoyant and you can see beings, I would love for you to describe, I don't know, maybe even two or three, like of the different species and what they look like. What can we expect to see?
Well, there's definitely different species. There's I mean, sometimes people talk about Pleiadians and Arcturians. They look actually very humanistic. And like the Syrians do too. Syrians have blue undertone, their skin is a little bit blue and their facial features are a little bit different. Arcturians typically are taller than us, like can be really tall, but some of them, you can't put a blanket statement on that always. Just like humans, some of us are tall and some of us are short. But as a general species, they're taller and thinner. Like there's the Lyrian, and they're more cat-like. So their faces have, their eyes are shaped a little bit different. They're wider through here, and up here a little bit wider.
Do
And
they have
then
fur all over them like cats, or
um
they're just their faces are shaped a little
ish for ish.
fur-ish?
Yeah, not it's not hairy like
Like a cat.
right.
Okay.
It's but it's their skin isn't a super smooth like ours. And then who am I thinking of? The mantis people. They have very mantis like limbs and long necks with skinny faces. They often wear robes because they do recognize that they look different and they don't want to like freak anybody out. There's other there's actually other beings too that don't have they have energetic names. Like they have an energetic imprint as their name, and so it's not translatable into written or spoken language that we have, because most of the language is telepathic.
Yeah.
So there's some that have more, that have like forearms, like you see this in some of our history and the depictions, like the Ganesh and some of the
Yes.
East Indian stuff. You'll see the forearms. That's
Yes.
very intentional, and that, or you'll see in Egyptian culture some of the cat people, right?
Yeah.
That's very intentional because those are um, part of the cultures that were here, and so you'll see it in our art and stuff. And some of the beans are small, and people always talk about the grays, right? They are gray, and they have
Short.
they're smaller. They've done a lot of they've messed with their genetics a lot, and so it kind of genetically been moved into more worker beans, through their own doing. And so they're often kind of the frontline beans that people talk about. But they're also the ones that have been copied and mimicked by the government as well. Like there's some imposter interstellar beings that aren't really interstellar beings. They're man-made, if you will, and man-made spaceships that have been out there in the media, and a lot of that's just to incite fear.
Yes, I for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is. There's other beings like the Nordics too, and they're very water wise. So, and you might have an affinity to some of these different beings if you find yourself really attracted to certain things, like the water. You really want to live on the water. You really like being in the water. Or if you really love cats, you like cat art, you like, that's how sometimes you can tell if you have any kind of past life or parallel life, what I like to call them parallel lives,
Yeah.
with other beings. Thinking of time as being stacked, sort of happening all at the same time instead of linear.
Yeah. It's so mind blowing. It's like I get it, but I don't get it,
Right.
right?
We don't have
It'll
the
happen now,
mental
but
capacity.
what does that practically mean?
It's really difficult when you know that we have a 24-hour day here on Earth, and there is time progression. We have seasons, and we get old, so we can see, well, there is something happening, right?
Yeah, like look around, but
But when we think of time, we can't go back and we can't go forward, technically speaking. We can talk about how it's morning where I am right now, but it's afternoon on a different part of the earth. So if I flew in a really fast airplane, I could sort of fly into my future.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
It's
fly back into somebody's past. So it's interesting when you think about it like that. It's hard to wrap your head around it.
It is, yeah, it is hard. Yeah, so I want to ask you about the command center. So you said you have another soul aspect who works in the command center.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? And is it female, male, and what do they do for work and their job? And what is the command center?
She's a female, and the command center is basically the kind of the heart of the ship, where all the technical stuff happens. Her job is currently repairing the grid, the energetic crystalline grid on Earth. Yeah. So whenever there's a disruption in the grid, thinking of the ley lines and the crystalline grid structure that goes around the whole Earth, whether it's an earthquake or a natural disaster or what have you, her job is repairing it. It had in previous years been really damaged, and they've been working on repairing the whole thing. And that's also part of our ascension that has to be completely repaired for Earth to be able to ascend as well. And they're getting very close to it.
I do grid work myself, but I know sometimes there's, different aspects of the grid work. And so when you say the crystalline grid, is that like I've heard of like the Christ consciousness grid? Is that the same thing or is that something different?
I'm not sure. I've heard of Christ consciousness, but I've never heard the word grid used in the same context.
Yeah, I've heard there's like a grid around the planet that does have to be restored at whatever, this frequency or dimension in order for the whole planet to move up into.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine it's the same thing.
It sounds like it might be. I'm not sure. They don't interstellar beings use different terminology than we
Yeah,
do
I
because
found that.
we're here on Earth. There's a lot of us grew up having a religion or religious based like that. There's a lot of that in Earth. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
like that in other places.
Yeah, so she would just refer to it as the grid, crystalline
Yeah.
grid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And that's her background on her her soul planet, her planet of origin. Her background is with crystals as well. And that's how I got into it. Or
I was
that's
going to say,
how
that
I
makes
was
sense.
pulled into it. I kept having all these dreams about crystals and all these familiar experiences, but actually weren't familiar, right? Or I hadn't experienced them in this body.
Yeah. What race is she?
She falls into what I call the other category because it has an energetic name.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
her planet of origin is planet 455, and that is in the 10th dimension. That's about the most language I can get out of it because it's an
Yeah.
energetic word. And she looks similar to me, except she does have more limbs than I do. And their skin is a little bit, not reptilian, but not smooth, not so smooth. A little bit like waterproof, if you will, tougher. It's tougher skin, but similar size, similar height. Other, aside from having 4 arms, body structure is very similar.
Yeah. And so all of the energy work and the grid restoration that she's doing, she's able to do it from the ship. Is that correct? She's able to do distance energy healing on the grid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is there a big team of people all working on the grid together with her?
There is definitely is a lot of light workers that are doing the grid work,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them are here on Earth. Some of them are doing it in their dream time, their sleep time. Some of
Yeah.
them are more aware of it, like maybe you're more aware of it. I think if you find yourself being somebody who wakes up really tired, even though you think that you technically slept, you might be doing it if you don't have a conscious memory of it. Sometimes we do have a conscious memory of doing things in our sleep, traveling or working in our sleep. But I have found that many times when I wake up, I'm like, oh my gosh, I, I feel like I haven't slept at all. And
So nice.
so it's beneficial to sometimes tell your team, I need to sleep tonight. So I can't work tonight. I gotta get some rest.
Doing that, I'm like, I have to set boundaries because my physical Lauren, like I have things during the day I need to do too, and I need to have energy, for all of this stuff too.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Is there anything else about Galactic Federation you want to share?
Yeah, I think I could share a couple of things. So, if you are somebody who has a vivid imagination, especially when it comes to what you might call science fiction stuff, there may be a real reason why you have those. I'm going to call them memories, because I believe that our imagination is based on memories. And also, a lot of the things, not all, but a lot of the things that are in some of the movies, like Star Trek and Star Wars, are based on the people that wrote them. They're based on their memories too, or their imagination, however you want to look at it. Like there is actually an intergalactic space station, interstellar space station, if you will, whatever you want to call it. And it's similar to what you would see in the movies with the long halls that are lit, or maybe they light up as you walk down, and the different beings. And there's group spaces like the bar that's in one of the Star Wars movies where there's different beings inside. There are those do exist, and there are different beings that look like some of them, not all of them. So just be open to what your mind, the information that your mind gives you, because a lot of it is really true, or based on maybe a life that you had in the past. And then there's a lot of things also going on energetically with Earth. So Earth is trying to ascend to the higher dimension, so that's really shakes us up. There's more weather phenomenons. There's some more natural disasters. The poles are kind of reversing, so that causes a big shakeup energetically. So kind of recognize that a lot of those things are happening, so we can get to that energetic space. And then keeping an open mind about the Galactic Federation, realizing that they are like our ultimate protector. While they can't stop all the bad things from happening, they are working diligently to keep us from annihilating the whole planet. So things, technology speaking, some things may go sideways, with other countries not being able to pull off the bad things that they want to. Speaking of wars and stuff like that. And knowing that there's better things ahead. There's better energy sources. There's going to be less conflict and more joy. We can reach towards these better things that are coming forward for us.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful message. When people see all of the chaos and all of this that's going on in the world, and they're just like they feel hopeless and like it seems like things are getting worse when actually things are
A lot of
shifting.
that negativity has to transform.
Yeah,
So a lot of it's stored in the earth and it has to be released. And that looks chaotic, but it's actually transformative if you can look at the bigger picture. And then also, it's really hard sometimes when you see a lot of people dying, recognizing that they're going to come back in a better place, and they're going to come back to this better earth, and that they're exiting at this time is allowing that to happen, allowing them to come back in a better space.
Since we've kind of segued into it, right, the new earth and the changes that are going on, I love to ask people about the ascension and the new dimension because everyone kind of has a different way of describing. So, could you just share from your perspective and your experience, like what is happening on Earth right now? Because it can feel so scary and overwhelming, and emotions are coming up that are hard, and collectively with the earth things are coming up.
And like on an individual level, we are being forced to deal with our own personal issues, deal with our own traumas, heavily deal with our own traumas. A lot of us are, like, because once we get to that place of ascension, those traumas can't come with us. So, and those negative energies aren't going to come with us. And if we can deal with them now and allow ourselves to process through them and work through them, then when it's time to ascend, it's easier. It's not so hard. It's not so, oh my gosh, I have to deal with all of this stuff right now.
One.
And thinking of Earth too has to shake off all the trauma and the negativity. And if that happened all in one day or a short period of time, it's not really one day, but a short period of time, it would be even more traumatic for all of us and the Earth. But excuse me, knowing that Ascension is actually moving us into joy. It's allowing us to be into that, to live from our heart space instead of our ego based thoughts.
Yeah.
Really moving into feelings, heart space, and joy is ultimately what the goal is. And like love for everyone, which that's kind of like a hippie term, a hippie term. It's like that's really what it is, getting to that space where everything is in joy and love, and we're all in this together.
Yeah. So when people talk about the new earth or this new dimension, would you say it's more of an energy or a frequency and kind of a frame of being and consciousness rather than like, oh, here we're going to a new place? Like we're still going to be here, but we're going to shift.
We're going to be on Earth, and we're just going to be in that higher frequency of joy and love. Those lower energy aren't going to be supported anymore. So people will have a choice to whether they want to move into that heart space or if they want to stay in that ego-based lower frequency.
Yeah. Would you say the people that are ascend, where are they going to go?
They'll just stay in the same space.
They won't come with
You're not.
us.
Yeah, they won't. It's like the way I look at it is we know that the interstellar beings are in a different dimension. We can energetically feel them, but we can't really see them. Like physically, they're not tangible in this dimension. Or it's very difficult for them to be tangible in this dimension. It takes a lot of energy, so it doesn't happen really very often. It'll be the same, the people that don't want to move to that frequency will just be in a different frequency. They'll be in the third dimension still while we're in the fifth dimension.
And once we shift to fifth dimension, then having interstellar contact is going to be so easy because the vibrations will match up, right?
Yes. It will be much easier to match their vibration and for them to match ours as well.
Yeah. Yeah, something to look forward to.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's one thing I'm excited, like doing all this healing work and raising my vibration. It's like, well, I'm excited to meet them.
No, me too.
Yeah. Yeah, very exciting. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. Are there any notes you want to wrap up with, Galactic Federation, or should we move into dream interpretation?
I don't think so unless you have any last questions. Don't be scared.
Yeah, don't be scared. Would you say that's kind of one of the biggest messages they keep sharing with you is don't be scared, don't fear us?
Yeah, don't stay out of the fear. They come with love and joy.
Yeah, so
You're here to help.
exciting. What an exciting time to be on Earth.
I agree. Absolutely.